you'd want to keep your dial right here on the Joy News channel. Also on DSTV, we are on channel 421. Code TV is 144. I'll take you to the Air Force Officers' Mess where my colleagues Agbagba, Maxwell Agbagba and Latif Idris will be joining us with all the action, all the happenings, all the interviews right there as that vigil takes off. But first, we also prepare to bring you that great documentary put together by the Joy News team for former President Jerry John Rawlings as Ghana's Great. But some of the interviews that we've put together, we'll be bringing them to you. We start off from Nilaye Afutiagbo, the man we call Lion. You know how close he was to former President Jerry John Rawlings. He's been telling us his story. Thank you very much for joining us here on the Joy News channel.
It's because of my name. You know, I'm called Lai. My real name is Lai. Okay. So when we were in science school, I used to go to London during holidays to go and do, you know, some job, holiday job. So anytime I go to London, my cousins and my friends, Mark, John Abloh, may he so rest in peace, used to call me Lion. They never called the Lion. Lion. And it has turned into Lion.
Okay. But not because...
Rawlings called me Lion. Your mama calls me Lion. President Kufuor calls me Lion. Nanado calls me Lion. Everybody, my colleagues in Parliament, calls me Lion.
Is it because of your nature also? I'm sure now you become
what meanings they are reading into it? Because they were not there when my cousins were calling me Lion. So when they heard the Lion, some may think it is because of my affiliation with Rawlings. And I'm a very hard, difficult person or something. But I always said to people that I don't want people to know the other side of me. Because I have a very good heart. My love for people is excellent. And that one, I don't want people to know because they will take advantage of me. Yes.
Well, let's get into your relationship with the former president. Well, we're still mourning. First off, how did the news about his death get to you?
It was a shocking news. I'm saying this because the week before his demise, I was here when one of the bodyguards called and said he's been sent by the old man to come and talk to me to solve a problem for him. So I told them I was in the house and they came. He was in the company of one of the old man's cousins. So when they came, I didn't know the man, but he introduced himself to me. We sat and then started discussing the issue. I listened to them and it wasn't any problem that I couldn't solve. Within 2 days, I solved the problem. And then besides that, we discussed other issues. And the old man, according to him, the old man said, well, I'm the only one who he discusses with me about that particular issue when it has to be done. So we discussed it at length, and then I told him that whatever the issue, I have it. And I can easily solve it for him. So I was waiting for his word to move closer to him one-on-one, because it's about one-on-one issue and discussion. So all along, I was waiting for his word before moving, and I was alert and ready. But whilst I was waiting, I wasn't hearing from him. So I think that was a time that he wasn't feeling fine. And from the bodyguard, he said, the old man asked him to wait when he comes back to the house from the hospital. Then he can ask me to come for us to discuss that issue. So that early morning, I was here around 10:15, 10:30. Then I had a call from one of the bodyguards. It wasn't the one who came here. That the old man is gone. So when he came out and said the old man is gone, I thought it was his father. So I was asking him, your father? Then he said, no, Lion, the old man is gone. I said, which of the old men? Then he said, oh, the old man. I said, who, Rawlings? He said, yes. So quickly I cut off the line. But I couldn't go on to discuss it with him. So I cut off the line and I sat in my chair here. I was just relaxing, thinking it was like a daydream, you know. I was thinking about it. I didn't know who to call. So I was here. Then quickly, I'm like, let me inform the former president, John Mahama. I called his line, it wasn't going. The line was off. I thought of who next to call. Then I realized Victor Smith was in his convoy, was with him on the campaign trail. So quickly I called Victor Smith, I was able to get him. Then I whispered to him of the issue. Then he said, are you sure? I said, yes. This is what has just happened. So you should inform the old man. Then I think he informed the old man within some few minutes. They were on their way to a rally. When the old man got there, I think he brought the news to the people that we have an issue at hand and this is what has happened. So after his meeting with them, he was going to withdraw and then cancel the campaign for some time and then come back to Accra. So this was what happened when I heard the news. He is my very good friend. He was my very good friend. I was very close to him. And apart from him, I didn't know who to talk to because he's the only one that I'm very close to. And he's the only one who is my very good friend and very close friend that we sit and share our issues when I'm not happy or if things are going on politically in the country and I don't see my way clear. I try to get closer to him so that we discuss it. He speaks his mind. I also come out to tell him of how I feel. We'll discuss it at length. Then we'll find a solution to the problem.
So with his death, from the time that you heard the news and when you had to call others to also be told, that, especially the former president, for instance, after that, I'm sure you've been thinking about the whole issue. How are you feeling?
I'm still feeling that it's still like a dream. I'm still feeling like it's a dream. I don't know. I'm still not finding my way clear. Because I go to the house, sometimes I'll go enter into the house, I'll sit in the car for like an hour and then withdraw. You know? But because anytime I go to the office, I walk to him, I walk to the reception, I tell them I'm looking for the old man. They'll tell me, oh, they want to inform him that I'm around. If he's inside, deep inside the room, he will ask me to come. I'll go and join him over there. I'll sit by him, close to him, and then we'll discuss our issues. There is something that he loves so much, and I also love the same thing. So most of the time when we meet, we discuss at length of that thing. And we discuss it at length, and we split because I move more than him, and I travel also more than him now than before. So if there is anything, I'll be the one to at least know what is going on, the changes and the amendments and the models and new models and all that. So I don't know who to share these things with. And there's somebody that when he's angry and I appear, he comes down. I've seen him attacking people and insulting them right in my presence, direct to them, attacking them, telling them of what they haven't done right. He has never done that to me. No.
Do you remember instances when he was angry, telling someone off, and you appeared and he had to stop? Any particular instances you remember?
There was a time, there was a funeral for us to attend, for him to attend at Ada. And that funeral, he arrived from a foreign trip the previous night, and he was tired. So when he was being asked to come, by then we were in opposition, and the ground was very solid. And his presence at locations enhances the chances of the party. So the party top hierarchy within the region wanted him to come. They've all called him to come to the funeral. He refused to go. Finally, they relied on me. I was in the house when they called. I left the house, drove. Within a short time, I was in his house. I assured them I'll come with him. When I got there, he was asleep. Then I shook his legs. Then he woke up. Then I told him I've come because of the funeral at Adan that we have to attend. And he said, "Oh, Chief, I'm tired. I arrived this dawn and I'm very tired. I need some sleep." I said, "Sir, if you don't go to that funeral, it will dampen the spirit of our people on the ground. They'll be disillusioned. So, sir, let us try and go. No matter how tired we are, I'm here to go with you, sir." I said, "Oh, Jeno. Oh, Banae." Then he left and walked into the room, the bedroom. When he came out, he was in his black. I was by then in the company of some of my in-laws who are also in America. They were so interested to go with us because they also love him. So we moved together in our vehicles. I was in his car, and then I told our friends and my senior colleagues, Yiti Mensa, Honorable Sheriaite, all of them, that we were on our way coming. And it was a surprise to all of them. They are aware of my relationship. There was a time that he wasn't happy of an issue. Some articles were being written in the papers, and he thought it was being directed to him. So when I went and he complained to me, I told him, "No, sir. Those people, they love you. They can't write any article in the papers against you. No, sir. I don't want you to assume. Sir, when you give me the chance, I will approach them. So it won't look as if I'm going to lie to them about, or I'm going to inform them of what you have discussed with me. So, sir, give me the chance. I'll go and talk to them. Either to come or to call you." Then he said, "Okay, go ahead." But he told me that those guys are very sharp and intelligent. When they write, their statements are very brilliant and good.
Which guys are these?
Remember, you want to know? But then it was Neil and Van der Poel and Koko Anyidaho when they were with Professor Mills. So I went to them. I drove to them at the Professor Mills' office. Then I told them, "This is what the old man is saying." And I told him it's not true. I don't believe it. But my affiliation and relationship with you is solid. And I knew what you stand for. And you don't have any issue with it. He didn't call him. "I want you to call the man now yourselves. When you call and he doesn't pick up, send him a text. Truly, when they called, he didn't pick up. They sent him a text and he picked up. Then they told him of their intention and why they are looking for him. Then the old man said, after exchanging, those when it comes to text messages and all those things, he made a statement on behalf of himself and the Nilantibada boy, explaining the issues and what their intention of those publications. Then the old man replied, the author wrote, the old man replied, and that was the end. They became friends. I tried to put him together with people and to diffuse some complaints by him against some personalities, just if I happen to be around him, or when he whispers to me of his displeasure about a particular issue, I try to stop it.
We'll get into those issues shortly, but let's go back to the very beginning. How did you meet Mr. Rawlings?
I met Rawlings at the age of 14 when he came to my grandfather, and at a point took my grandfather as his father. Openly, at 6th March parade or 31st anniversary parade at the Independence Square, you could walk from his mic when he's giving a speech and he's trying to narrate a story on an issue. He would leave the mic, walk towards my grandfather, hold his hand, and then lift him up, that this is my father. And then after that, he would tell the story behind it, why he's taking him as his father. So, in all those days, I was the one who always goes out with my grandfather. I was very young, but I was always with my grandfather. He was my friend and my grandfather. When it comes to his dealings also with Rawlings, I'm the one between the two of them. If there is any information to be given to my grandfather, I would have to be the one to go and tell him. And if there is anything for the old man to also tell my grandfather, I'll be the one to also tell my grandfather. And if there should be any visit by the old man to the village, I will be the one to inform my grandfather. And if my grandfather has to also go to the castle to go and see the old man for an interaction, I'll be the one to accompany him to him. So through his actions and inactions, I admired him and I enjoyed him. What I enjoyed most was his look at that time. I enjoyed that one more than even the later part of him. He looks so slim, strong, and when he's walking, the vim, when he comes out, brilliant. And I was following him closely, picking up his words, learning a lot from him. And in fact, my whole family is Rawlings. Oh yes. My whole family, there's no even one person that hates him. My whole family, or that hated him, my whole family is Rawlings.
Do you remember the very first day you set eyes on him? 14 years old?
Yes. The first day I set my eyes on him was after June 4, when he was coming to Katamasu in a civil dress. He wasn't a soldier by then. At that age, he would be about 35 at the time.
That was after the first school?
Yes, after the first school. That was when the relationship started. But it was free. So it was coming most of the times. When there is a program in Nungwa, like this, we used to play soccer match with Teshi on the 7th of every July, when we had to celebrate our festival. That's the beginning of the celebration. We play football matches with Teshi. He used to come to the park. Yes. To come and be part of the audience. He would join the elders to sit. And he likes wearing black. So, in fact, his gestures are extraordinary. So you always like him because you hardly have anybody to compare with him or to him. So, in fact, some of the things he was doing, some of us, I should have been a soldier. Yes, I should have been a soldier.
Why didn't you become a soldier?
Because whether my grandfather and my father were afraid, and because nobody from my family had ever been a soldier. So when the old man himself sent for me to be picked up to come and join the group that were to be trained outside the country, I had to be swapped with somebody else. They swapped me with somebody, a friend's son, and one of a cousin, who had by then returned from outside the country. The two of them replaced the two of us that were to be taken. The old man survived, I will say, based on wisdom. Because we've heard of leaders who have been assassinated or dealt with by their own bodyguards. So if you recruit bodyguards whose backgrounds are not known that much, they might end up being influenced by some other people to deal with you or to misbehave. But if the background check is good and they are children of your friends, a long-standing relationship with the family that you have been with, then you feel that you're free in mind to engage that person as a bodyguard, who will not be carrying a pen or a stick, but a gun, fully loaded with arms to defend you. So the man was very, very careful as to who becomes his bodyguard. The selection was excellent, and that was how he survived. Some of us could go against our own selves for Rawlings to survive. We are lucky that most of the guys who were his bodyguards and were very close to him, if not that they are outside at this time, some of them are gone. Like you see, the number of people who killed themselves for Rawlings departing. Because I remember when one of the bodyguards, through some sporting activities, had an internal injury or bleeding, and he died. Within a few minutes, about 2 bodyguards have shot themselves. Yes. And a word had to be given out so that they will all come down. This is what we call loyalty. Yes. You will see some of us, because of work, keeping a distance a little bit from him. But that doesn't mean we are not monitoring his movement and activity. Let something happen to him. I'm happy that he died naturally.
Did he fall sick for a long time?
No.
Was he sick?
No, because I was with him at Keta during the funeral. I didn't see any sign of sickness with him. So what I'm saying this because he wasn't shot to die, he wasn't beaten to die, he wasn't attacked to die, but he died in the hospital. That's what I'm saying. I don't know what actually killed him medically, but I may say that he died through a natural death. He wasn't hurt by anybody, he wasn't beaten by anybody, he wasn't shot by anybody. So there will be peace. But if he had been dealt with through an attack or something, it will not be good for this country. Who see Rawlings as a mentor. There are so many people who will be ready to die because of Rawlings. all along, people have been monitoring to see that this man should not be maltreated by anybody. This man, Rawlings wasn't perfect. Rawlings wasn't that, he wasn't God or a teen God. He was a human being. And no human being is perfect. We look at the bad people and their good side. If the advantages are more than the disadvantages, which one will you choose? You choose the person. This man is not evil, he's not diabolical, he's not, but maybe there's this fault with him, which is not too serious. Comparing such a person to somebody who has a whole lot of problems when it comes to leadership, or when it comes to dealing with people when they misbehave, the difference will be clear.
But because of his actions and inactions, a number of people lost their lives as well. That left a lot of scars. For instance, a lot of people.
Do you know something?
Hate him for that.
Yeah, let me tell you something. If I'm not saying Rawlings is perfect. I've hardly fought with people who have issues with Rawlings, because I don't know what may have caused them to have that issue or problem with him. Maybe he may have done something wrong against them, because he's not God. He wasn't God. He was a human being. So he won't be perfect. So why should I? And the man that I've been with doesn't know how to fight. He doesn't know how to fight with people. I'm not talking about fighting physically, but I'm talking about to have an issue with somebody and say that I hate this man, I'm not talking to him. Because I've heard him complaining that, oh, this man did this and I complained. Oh, so he's not talking to me? Oh, so he's angry with me? So even seeing me, he couldn't even walk to me to greet me? How? Human beings. How do they think? I've heard him saying this several times, one-on-one.
In which cases, for instance?
There was a program in Tamale that we attended when I had just been made a minister. And I was in my hotel room. And it was time for everybody to go to the program. When elections were done for the national executive positions, where the wife won as one of the chairpersons. I said to myself, no matter who I am and what I've been made as a minister, Jerry is a grandfather and he's still my master. I did that based on principle and loyalty. Why should you see yourself as a champion whilst your grandfather lives? You can be a president of Ghana. If one had become a president before, you know, at a point in time, if I should be a president, and I have to attend to a program, and I have my predecessors around, if they have to rise up for me to, because of my arrival, I can even take the mic and say that if everybody has to stand for my arrival, they are not part of it. That shows a level of humility. It is right and it is a norm that when a president arrives at a place, everybody must stand. But some people have been presidents before you. So out of wisdom, if they even stand for you, you have the right to even say, by way of cracking a joke or something, that's your inner feeling, that if everybody should stand for me, you are not part of it. No matter what political party a person belongs. Not necessarily coming from your political party. This is what we call wisdom at its high level. So I said to myself, I'll be made a minister. Who am I? Few months ago, I was with a man campaigning in his car throughout the country, 2008. If we have won, I'll be made a minister. Oh, I used to sit in the car with him, in the same car with him throughout the campaign. If there's any program to attend, I would have to be with him in his car. So most of the times I was driving because he didn't want the drivers to listen to our conversations for the long hour drive. So I became a driver by force, whilst I was even an MP. Yes. And in 2008, I didn't campaign in my constituency. The time I had to use to campaign in my constituency, I was with him throughout the tour. And my colleagues were even asking, why are you not campaigning? Why are you here at this time? I said, my constituency is already gone. It is not in the hands of these people. I have it. So I don't need to waste my time. I've come with him to help you people win your seats. That was what happened. Because I do the right thing. When it comes to dealing with electorates and how to manage them, I can advise presidents.
Then why did he stop? We'll fast forward because 2008 he campaigned for the NDC. You're one of those who were described as the disloyal ones because even after your appointment, like you said, your loyalty was to Rawlings and not to the president at the time. But let's fast forward. What actually happened such that Mr. Rawlings fell out with the party to the extent that he was not even campaigning?
Let me explain. Rawlings, when it comes to, I'm very, very intelligent. And because I happened to be brought up by an old man chief who had a whole lot of wisdom and was my friend. My age was that small, but my brain is like a 70-year-old man's brain. That's why I can advise elderly people. I've never found myself so comfortable in the midst of my age mates. So throughout my life, I've been in the company of elderly people. My grandfather was at the point my friend. Anytime he visited the government chair near Mugi at the time, I was with him. My father was also my friend. Anytime he was to go out, I was my father's driver at a point in time because he was a member of the Constitutive Assembly when the Constitution was being written. I was with him as his driver. I had by then come out of school, I was free. So there was nothing for me to do, so I was helping him. You know? So for me to be loyal to Rawlings and hate Professor Mills, it wasn't so. Professor Mills is also a different person altogether. Very calm, very good. He will call you at any point in time, sit with you, and ask you of your intentions and your thinking. What do you think is happening? There may be meetings that I didn't even deserve to be part of, but he was inviting me. That after there will be a meeting in my office tomorrow, I want you to be part of it, and I'll be part of the meeting. And so the things that will be discussed. Finding myself in that meeting, I'm like, wow, the whole Ghana budget being discussed, economy being discussed, the oil issues being discussed, and I'll be part of it with the ministers of that sector. Wow. You know, it makes you love the person for being identified as also an important person. So whilst I was loyal to Rawlings, I was at the same time loving Professor Mills.
How can you have two masters?
That you see why some men can marry 3, 4, 5?
Tell me about it.
MFA, today I'll school you. One man can marry 5 wives and love all of them. Their individual characters wouldn't be the same. There are some who love money. There are some that when you give them money, they will turn it into folds. They will double it within a short time without any problem. And there are some too that when you give them the money, within a few days, they've consumed all. And their characters the same. When it comes to love, because they are human beings, and they have what it takes for you to love them, you will love them the same. But you will treat them differently according to their individual characters. Do you know why I'm saying this? I've been an MP for 16 good years. When I was a chairman in my constituency, I was the youngest among the executives, but I was a chairman. And the baby boy amongst them. I was moving all of them along. And the financier of the party. And wasn't even interested in becoming an MP because of what I was doing. I loved all of them. I never had a favorite. No. Within my executives. No favoritism. I didn't have any favorites among them. Whoever comes closer to me on a particular day is my friend. I'll move with him. But their characters were not the same. There are some that when they are doing something, they have a motive. Plan B, I know. There are some that they will do things with their hearts without looking at benefit. Those ones, you surprise them by giving them money. There are some that you give them money to go and pay for something, they will end up.
This is the Joy News channel. You've been watching Nilai Afotiagbo give us his fondest memories of the former president, Jerry John Rawlings. And I'll take you now to the Air Force Officers' Mess, where that vigil is currently taking off.
Occasion. It is my hope that you will use this occasion to reflect and celebrate the life and legacy of His Excellency, Life Lieutenant Jerry John Rawlings. But the life is only a reflection of what we allow ourselves to see and to be. I wish to appeal to all to please comply with the COVID-19 protocols put in place in and around the mess. Once again, on behalf of the Military High Command, I welcome you all to this evening's nocturnal devotional activity in memory of our late President, J.J. Rawlings. May the memories of His Excellency continue to inspire leadership now and generations yet to come. Thank you. Yeah.
We shall now have a song by Wing Commander Alote, retired, in the memory of Wing Commander Alote.
I've seen the burden God has laid on the human race. He makes all things beautiful in His time. To everything there is a season, a time for everything under heaven, a time to be born and a time to die, a time to plant and a time to pluck out, a time to kill and a time to heal, time to break and a time to build, a time to weep and a time to laugh. God is near to take the burdens you should bear. He gives you life, His joy and peace. His love for you will never end. He wants the church to be His bride, His living word to be your guide. Salvation is the key to start. Salvation is the key to start. And you'll be back on the wonderful journey back to God. God makes it beautiful. God makes all things so beautiful. Time is all we have in His time. Time is all we have. God makes it beautiful. God makes all things so beautiful. Time is all we have in its time. Oh, time is all we have. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. A round of applause for him, sir. I would like to acknowledge the presence of the following individuals. We have in our presence the Chief of Defense Staff, Lieutenant General Obi Akwa, Rear Admiral Seth Amwama, the Chief of the Naval Staff, the Air Vice Marshal Frank Hansen, Chief of Air Staff. And in our presence is the former First Lady Nana Kunedu Ajiman Rawlings. We have also in our midst the former Chief of Defense Staff, Air Vice Marshal Samson Oje. We have former Chief of Air Staffs, Air Vice Marshal Boateng and Air Vice Marshal Nagai. In our midst is the High Commissioner of the Republic of South Africa, Ambassador Grace Janet Mason, and Ambassador Philip Beho. More acknowledgements will come as the program rolls on. We shall kindly be on our feet to sing Methodist hymn number 896. Methodist hymn number 896.
Now
Thank you very much. Please, you may be seated. I'm glad this is a mess event, and as such, when I commit an offense, I'll simply punish myself by buying so many bottles of whiskey. I inadvertently mentioned the rank of the former Chief of Air Staff, Air Marshal Samson Ojei, as Air Vice Marshal. So I punish myself. We shall have a short documentary of the life of the Flight Lieutenant Jerry John Rawlings. That is his life in summary. Please let the video roll.
In his home country of Ghana, he was simply called JJ. In the turbulent times, a nation's expectant youth referred to him as Junior Jesus.
He was a savior, honest person with high integrity.
Hero, revolutionary.
Just an ordinary, hungry, screaming Ghanaian who wants to contribute.
Visionary.
Difficulties were dissolving into chaos, and you needed somebody to actually take the bull by the horn.
Patriotic.
Let me assure you that Africa can work. It is up to the rest of the world to look beyond the prejudiced and sensational images and recognize Africa as the continent of the future.
So there was something about him which you could recognize, so you wouldn't question what he said.
To do that for the good of this country. It's many interests. It's about the people.
Yet, divided opinions.
Nobody heard Batake's side of the story.
Jerry John Rawlings. Testimonies to a Patriot.
Sing songs in praise of me, please. Sing it in praise of Ghana and Africa, the black man.
Jerry John Rawlings. Testimonies to a Patriot.
I don't care who you, in Italy, in France, in Britain, America bring into power in my country. But I would wish you would contain them enough from declining into massive corruption and brutality and tyrannical tendencies. Because if you do not contain them, what happens is that they become so corrupt, they are now afraid of free and fair elections, and they refuse to leave power, and then we have volcanic eruptions.
Jerry John Rawlings led Ghana for almost 2 decades as a military leader and a democratically elected president. After a successful second term in office and his country in a far better position, he retired from active politics.
I think he became an uncle to our politics because both sides of the political divide were all moving towards him for advice and for counsel.
I wish he had indulged in politics a little more than he did lately.
From what he told me, he worked closely with people who later on turned their backs on him.
The one I learned about him was his trust of people. He trusted people easily. And when people he trusted let him down, it hurt him so much so. He himself was trustworthy. He thought everybody was like him.
At the most crucial period, he didn't have people to lean on, he was quite disappointed. And that accounted for his withdrawal.
He was hoping that the party that he had set up, he didn't want to dictate to the party, but he wanted the party to be wary of where the party came from and what had brought the party into being. And the very things that we fought against in 79 and 31st December, when you see it creeping in, you begin to shudder. One day somebody asked me a question. He said, it appears your boss nowadays is not the kind of boss we knew because he has lost his vibrancy. I said, no, he's now a statesman. So taking partisan positions might not be the best because having regard to the way we do our politics here, it's like if you're not with me, then you're against me. But then he was able to manage that system so well that he attracted both sides. The NDC saw him as our founder, and the MPP also saw him as a stabilizing factor, so that in the event of any problem, we can go to him and seek advice. And I think he did it well, with satisfaction and perfection. He transformed from the fighter pilot that he was to a statesman. And I must say that I'm very, very proud of him. One of the biggest attributes I found in him was that we started off in the 70s and we were talking about values, human values. We were talking about these issues about integrity, accountability, and this thing. And I'm very, very confident that all throughout, after all he had been through, even when he was president, you could sit down with him and talk about these values. It's not everybody you could do that with. And sometimes when things were not too strong, you could see that he wasn't as, but he maintained those values. And I really respect him for that.
Jerry Rawlings dedicated his post-presidency period to pursuits of his humanitarian interests. His service to the United Nations, African Union, and other global agencies contributed in making the continent a better place.
He was also, I think, a very strong West African. He was a strong West African where he was willing to commit Ghanaian resources, both financial and human, to ensure peace and security in the sub-region. Because these were turbulent times in the sub-region, from Liberia, Sierra Leone, and all those, where democracy was being threatened, not only, but human life, the stability of those countries were being threatened. And he championed that. One time that Kofi Annan came here, and we had a long debate on this as to what he wanted, not only what he felt Ghana would contribute, but also how he would influence the leaders of that time, like Tijan Kaba at that time, to really live up to certain standards and expectations and so on. So he became leader really of West Africa to a great extent. Nigeria is a bigger country, but Jerry Rawlings was the one who pushed a lot of things, and as I said, provided the necessary resources and commitment and leadership and even dialogue.
The instability of Liberia is affecting the stability of the sub-region. It's making it difficult to attract investment. It's making it difficult, to improve the image of Africa. So I'm suffering, not indirectly, directly, both through the contribution of my troops to bring about stability.
The fighter squadron, fighter operation, where you have 2 or 3 aeroplanes flying together in close formation, sometimes as close as 1 meter. It was a joy flying with Jerry Rawlings because he would always maintain his position. Because the thing is that follow your leader, and he will always follow and get glued to his position. But every flight formation leader wants his wingmen to be in position. So that for those of you who have been watching from the ground, you could see as if we're all tied together. That's one of his favorites, and I really loved him for.
I just figured out I could say out these words, so whisper it out loud, cause now you're way up beyond the clouds. Many come and go, but you always stood out. For it's not like you've just moved from one town to the next. Where you've gone, we cannot follow unless we take drastic steps. The people of Ghana wanted you to live. Most people take, but you only knew how to give, and boy, oh boy, you did give inspiration to millions of us. You were no ordinary man, no, you were beautiful inside out. You were powerful, the Lady Justice of our time played out. On the 12th of November, your death came as a doubt, cause how can such a stout and devout man with a heart of gold now turn cold? You were a peaceful man. We take solace in the fact that now you walk on the streets that match the golden heart of yours. So if you can hear us now, please tell Jesus that Ghana says thanks. Yes, thanks in this circumstance. Beto Onunie, Jena, Kafu, Kafu.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Indeed, heaven knows when we will get there, and surely we shall get there. I would like to acknowledge the presence of the following individuals. Air Marshal Michael Sampson Ojay, the former Chief of the Defense Staff. Air Vice Marshal Kadri, former Commandant, Ghana Armed Forces Command and Staff College. Air Vice Marshal Frank Bequin, Air Officer Special Duties, Jubilee House. Air Vice Marshal Dovlo, former Commandant, Kofi Annan International Peacekeeping Training Center. Major General Francis Ofori, the current Commandant of the Kofi Annan International Peacekeeping Training Center. We also have in our midst Rear Admiral Beck Bafor, the Commandant of the Ghana Armed Forces Command and Staff College. Dr. Evans Jikum, the Chief Director of the Ministry of Defense. Representing the IGP, COP Mamiya Tiwa Dankwa. We also have Colonel Agbotui, retired, the head of family. We have Ambassador Victor Beho. Also in our midst is Honorable Ofosu Ampofo, the National Chairman of the National Democratic Congress. Honorable Benjamin Kumbo, former Minister for Defense. Honorable Alhaji Idrisu, former Minister for Defense. We shall now have scripture reading by Lieutenant Colonel Kumi Wood. Thank you.
Dearly beloved, our scripture reading for this evening is taken from Psalm 90 verse 1 through 12. Psalm 90 verse 1 through 12. The prayer of Moses, the man of God. Lord, you have been our dwelling place in all generations. Before the mountains were born, or you brought forth the earth and the world, from everlasting to everlasting, you are God. You return man to dust and say, return, O children of man. For 1,000 years in your sight are but like yesterday, which is just past, or as a watch in the night. You sweep them away as with a flood. They are like a dream, like grass that is renewed in the morning. In the morning it flourishes and is renewed. In the evening it fades and withers. For we are brought to an end by your anger. By your wrath we are dismayed. You have set our iniquities before you, our secret sins in the light of your presence. For all our days pass away under your wrath. We bring our years to an end like a sigh. The years of our life are 70, or even if by reason of strength 80. Yet their span is by toil and trouble. They are soon gone, and we fly away. Who considers the power of your anger? For your wrath is as great as the fear that is due you. So teach us to number our days, that we may get a heart of wisdom. So teach us to number our days, that we may get a heart of wisdom. The word of the Lord. Thank you.
Was difficulties were dissolving into chaos, and you needed somebody to actually take the bull by the horn, and he was the one who did.
Due to the economic conditions in the prevailing in those times, most of our professionals left to seek greener pastures elsewhere. But Nigerians decided that Ghanaians were to live in the country.
One of the major turning points was the way in which, when Nigeria expelled a whole lot of Ghanaians, the way in which the PNDC dealt with it.
We had about 1.2 million Ghanaians being expelled from Nigeria. And President Rawlings set in place a committee, and they were charged with the responsibility of ensuring that our people who were expelled will be reintegrated and also resettled.
He invited me to be responsible for the evacuation of our colleagues from Nigeria. That saw the creation of a repatriation task force, which subsequently changed into National Mobilization Program. That exercise was carried out satisfactorily under his direction and leadership. Resources were very scarce, but with total mobilization of Ghanaians, they came on board to support us in various ways, some with vehicles, with food items, etc., for the exercise to be successful. One thing we did was not to create refugee camps, of course with his support, in Ghana, because in Ghana, all Ghanaians have families all over the place, and therefore, instead of holding and creating refugee camps, we disperse all the returnees, we used to call them, first to their regions, then to the districts, and then to their villages. So within about 2 weeks, 3 weeks, the returnees had been dispersed into the various regions and the villages, to the surprise, to the amazement of the international world community.
You better shut up when I'm talking, okay? Do you have corn? I'm talking about planters, not diggers. Let me see you by the hand. Up. Good. Now, those of you who has the corn sacks, corn supply, but you've got corn in your left hand. Jesus Christ.
In rallying the nation to mitigate these challenges, the resilient character of Jerry Rawlings, his charisma, charm, hard work, and hands-on approach to leadership by example was brought to bear on the people of Ghana.
For him, no work was too low or demeaning for him as a chairman of the PNDC. So you find him in the quarters, you find him in the house, in the farms, you find him carrying a heavy load of cocoa on his back, or sack on his back. That was him.
To a lot of people sitting in their offices in Accra, that was pure theater. It was simplistic. But the point is, he was sending a message to ordinary Ghanaians that we don't have to wait for the IMF, for the World Bank. We have what it takes to rescue ourselves from this morass. And that's what he did.
He called on to the youth, and they responded. Arise, Ghana youths, for your country. The nation demands your devotion. We are all involved in building our motherland.
He was a soldier to the core. He did not promote himself beyond the rank at which he staged the revolution, as most revolutionaries did in those days.
Very much committed to the hierarchy, very much committed to command and control. Knew his place in the army and stuck to his place.
For him to hold on to the ethics of the code of ethics of the armed forces, he kept on addressing us sir. Sir, those of us who were senior to him, there was no occasion that he didn't say sir to us.
It's not so surprising, because how did he get certain people to come and work with him. People that you wouldn't imagine would do so. Like fishes of men.
Those of us who were his seniors had to make up our minds. This was a younger colleague in the armed forces, but had a vision. Should we go along to support him in pushing his vision through?
So there was something about him which you could recognize, so you wouldn't question what he said. So all these eminent people who came and joined, that was why they came. That's why I wasn't frightened.
With very little governance and political experience, Jerry Rawlings outlined his vision of national infrastructure development.
Most of his projects during his tenure of office were focused in the rural areas and the underprivileged areas of Ghana.
Agriculture was identified as a pillar.
Roughly about 3 years, we were able to produce so much maize that the country, the market was saturated. By 1985, we actually, from a hunger country, were able to export maize, not in peanuts, but shiploads to Angola under the World Food Program.
Health as a top priority, road and electricity as absolute necessities.
Who would have believed that remote areas of this country would have been connected to the national grid? It happened.
A bold attempt at economic recovery was put in motion. The protection of children and the vulnerable in Ghana received an unprecedented boost under Jerry Rawlings and the PNDC. The 31st December Women's Movement, led by the then First Lady, Nana Konadu Agyeman Rawlings, provided groundbreaking opportunities for the empowerment of women.
He had respect for women, and quite frankly, I'm not surprised that he went out of his way to empower women.
Because he had then ratified the Convention on the Rights of the Child, one of the first presidents to have ratified the convention, and therefore we went on to develop the Child Cannot Wait policy. And then after the Child Cannot Wait policy, then we decided to do the Children's Act.
For the moment, the problems are so grave, and upsetting, that if we don't say anything and we don't seem to be doing anything, then it's as if we don't care about the problems of this continent. But we must be committed to our own problems before somebody else can come and help you. It's like having a household being torn apart. The people in the household are not doing anything about it. They're expecting somebody from outside to come and help. If we don't do anything about it, or be seen, to be taking an interest in what goes on the continent, how do we expect other people to do that? So the realization that we should do something about it is what has brought us here, and the commitment of some of us to want to do something about it.
He had a very close relationship with his mother, and his mother was a very strong woman. And I don't think I'd be wrong in saying that he recognized similar traits in Nana Konadu. That is why he chose her to be his partner.
The part of it that people don't really think about is his humaneness and his humility.
During the days when he was chairman of the FRC and then the PNDC, he was down on the floor, on the carpet on the floor. And people didn't believe it. So there's a man that you need time to know him, to study him.
So we were driving during curfew. So the roads were empty. There were no people walking on the streets. And we came to a traffic light which was red. And the chairman said, "Stop the car." So we stopped, and the driver looked at him, and the bodyguard looked at him, and said, "Sir, there is nobody to see you. Why have you stopped? If you go, nobody will see you." They said, "Yes, but I will see me." And they tried to think, what's he getting at? He said, "I have a conscience. When I see myself do something, I can tell whether it's a good thing or a bad thing. So we're not in any hurry. There is nobody here to see us, but the light says red, so you stop and wait for it to change." So he's teaching them that whatever work you are doing, do the right thing, do it the right way.
By the end of the millennium, a fresh wind and multi-party was blowing across Africa, and Ghana under Jerry Rawlings was warming up to a representative government.
This country is not going back. She's moving only forward.
A new dawn was approaching.
The action taken by the junior officers and other ranks of the Ghana Armed Forces was motivated by a desire to bring justice, social, economic, and political, to all citizens of Ghana. The main purpose of the exercise is to ensure that the gap between the haves and the have-nots, the rich and poor, is bridged.
Jerry John Rawlings. Please give her a warm round of applause as I also call on Group Captain Richard Fojo, who was with the late president in the Air Force and was a close confidant and friend of his. I'd like you to give him a wonderful round of applause. Please. Group Captain Fojo. Please sit down. Mike. Sanitize. While we wait for Group Captain Fojo. There he is. Please give him a warm round of applause, please. His mic is. Honorable Madam Rawlings. Ajman Rawlings, yes. Thank you. This is a very solemn time. And I'd like to ask you, as the eldest child of your father, can you tell me briefly, what kind of man was he in reality to you?
Thank you. He was a lot of things, and in many ways, I think I experienced some dimensions of him by observing him in the public domain. But privately, what you saw is what you got, really. And I think to a large extent, the man you saw who was very passionate about things, who was very particular, he was a perfectionist. And he would pick on the strangest things, but he observed so much. I remember when he was in the castle, there was one time when we walked up the stairs and he just turned and asked me, how many steps did you climb up? And I didn't have an answer, but he had a way of bringing your attention to little details. And unfortunately, it's one of the things I've learned that starts to annoy people around me.
All right. Before I go on to Richard, I'd like to ask you one more thing. He looked very stern most of the time, and people were terrified of him because they thought he was a very stern, unbending human being. But I think he had a sense of humor. Can you tell us about that?
Yes, he was a bit of a prankster, actually, always cracking jokes. And I think he struggled with his vision for what needed to happen, with that sense of humor that was always there, never too far out of reach. There was one incident when I think this was still during the PNDC era, and we were going somewhere, so he was in the advanced vehicle and his bodyguards were in the vehicle behind. And as we drove out of the castle, actually no, before that happened, he'd gotten one of his stewards to get some smelly cheese and put it in the car of his bodyguards. So as we drove out of the castle, he was looking in his rearview mirror and he saw them stop the vehicle, and he just started laughing because he knew what was happening. They were trying to figure out what had gone on, because now each of the bodyguards was looking at each other and wondering who had caused that funny smell in the car. And one of them, who spent a lot more time with him, figured that the old man had done something, had played a prank on them. So they stopped the vehicle and started searching it, and they found the smelly cheese under the seat of the driver. That was the kind of person he was. Funny about everything, but what you saw is what you got, really. Yeah.
He was a very passionate man, and I think you spent a lot of time with him, Group Captain Fojo. You were with him at the Air Force Base. You were his confidant for a long time and very well respected by your colleagues. Tell us a little bit about your relationship with your
Over 40 years ago, when I joined the squadron as a cadet. And within a few weeks, there was some kind of a bond. I don't know what the bond was about, but then as we started talking, I realized that he had a very high sense of value for what was right and what was wrong. And I joined the Air Force thinking that it was a smooth, neat, structured organization. But within a very short time, realized that there were a lot of cracks. The cracks were getting deeper and deeper as we stayed on. So talking to the former president, I realized that we shared a common understanding about the deterioration in the system. And I also noticed one very big attribute which he maintained all throughout. He was someone who was very caring, and it was more like you need to be very close to him to know what kind of a person he is. As far as I'm concerned, I think he's very soft at heart, but outwardly he protects that softness at heart with a stern outlook. So that's the personal side of it. We'll come up with something.
But have you got any anecdotes? Because the last time I was talking to you, you were telling me about some of the things he got up to as an Air Force pilot, and how he was a great pilot in terms of his ability as a person who could handle the fighter jets?
Okay. When we joined the squadron, our training was not properly planned and very slow. And I got to do a lot of flying with him. One of the earliest things he taught me was that throughout your career, make sure you always fly the aircraft and don't allow the aircraft to fly you. And he demonstrated this with certain maneuvers, particularly formation flying, where he would insist that you can position the aircraft anywhere you wanted to position it, so long as you're in control of it. Insisting that first things first, you must understand the aircraft, then you can use it, get it to do what you wanted it to do. And when it comes to landing, he tells you that your landing must be as smooth as possible. And then he goes on to tell you that being smooth, he also requires that you should be able to put the aircraft where you want it to be. So I learned a lot about flying from him, although he didn't fly with us too long in the squadron. But after he left the squadron, even as president, he did a lot of flying with us.
Right. Zane, your father, you were the eldest child. And so what was family life like with him? You and your siblings, your relationship with your dad, you know, and your mom too.
Sorry, position between my parents for two reasons. One of which was the fact that he knew that at the time, because there wasn't that much stability, there was a threat to his life at some times, and he didn't want us to be a part of that. So he felt that if we lived in a separate location, it kind of decreased the risk. The second reason, which I think was definitely a joint parent, where my mother probably weighed in a lot more, was to make sure that we didn't grow up with the airs and a feeling of superiority, but you know, because by virtue of living within that, in the castle, for example, so it was just to have as normal a life as possible, which meant we didn't see him as often. But when we did, there was always something. He wanted to impart so much knowledge, and you know, if it wasn't teaching my siblings and I how to drive before our feet could even touch the gas pedal, it was, you know, teaching us how to fly the model planes or ride our bicycles. He was purpose-driven, and every encounter with him needed to have some kind of meaning and an outcome of sorts. He helped us develop a real love for nature. He really loved animals and nature, and he was really in his element when he was out in nature. That was interesting. My mother was the stricter disciplinarian. However, when she kind of ran out of options on what to do, she'd say, you know, she'd tell our father, and then, you know, you kind of back down because, you know, you don't even want the glare. You know, he had this glare. And we all got that kind of treatment. Or if there was something that you wanted and my mother didn't want to be the one to say no, she would tell you, go and ask your father. And then that means that the answer is no, but she didn't say no. But by and large, he was, when he was with you, he was present. You know, and we didn't get to spend that time, the amount of time with him as an everyday. But when you did spend time with him, it was fruitful, you know. And it wasn't a case of looking at your age or your size or your gender before he taught you something. He just taught you everything. You know, sometimes he'd be riding a horse and he'd pick Amina and let her, she was 5 years or something old at the time, you know, teaching her how to ride, or, you know, riding a motorbike and all of that. He was a combination of love and everything, just the combination. The man who we all got to know, that was a lot of what we experienced as well. And yet, in some funny way, when he wore the hat of head of state in public, we knew not to cross that line. And I remember when we were going to school, whenever there was a new fleet of vehicles that came to the presidency, he made sure that the worst vehicles that were almost unserviceable were the ones that came to the house. And I can't count the number of times when the car that came to pick us from school had to be pushed, you know, to start and all of that. And there was one time, I think, Colonel Bayer was the chief of staff at the time, and he kindly offered to bring a relatively nice vehicle to the residence. And my father came around that day and saw it, and he did this walk around the vehicle, looking at the car, and no comment. And you thought, oh, no. And by the end of that day, the vehicle had been changed. Yeah, so that was the kind of person he was. Or he just did not, he wasn't someone who was an accumulator of material wealth. And I think when Ya and I were quite young, Ya comes right after me. And the gate was quite noisy. So as he would drive in through the gate, Ya and I could hear the gate, and we would run into our rooms and try and hide our shoes behind the wardrobe, because every time he'd come into the room and open the wardrobe and stand there for a few seconds. You have too many shoes. Why do you need so many shoes? You know, when he was young, he didn't need this many shoes. So why do we have so many shoes? So it was this lecture that you kept getting, and you thought, no. So as soon as he's coming into the room, we'd run ahead of him and try and hide our shoes, because we just couldn't handle the lecture over and over and again. I still don't have that many shoes, thanks to him and all of that trauma. But that was the kind of person he was. There was always something. You know, I remember he got the secretariat to print out a long, I think 4 pages of words and their synonyms, and insisted that we should go through them and learn them so that we'd improve our vocabulary. Or whenever he'd come over, sometimes in the evenings, he'd spend a few minutes with Ya and myself asking us these mind-bending questions, you know, logic and, you know, how to test certain things, or one of these aptitude type questions. So he encouraged us to think outside the box, to stretch our minds a bit. Interesting man. Interesting.
Well, from the way you've explained and yourself so eloquently, I don't think he failed. Richard, before we wind up, I just want you to tell us one of your fondest memories of the late Flight Lieutenant Jerry John Rawlings. Yes, I know there are a lot of memories, but just take one special one out.
I'll combine 2. So you get to know the kind of person he was. I consider myself his loyal wingman. I have been with him throughout, and I was with him even in his last days. And I consider it a big privilege having to know someone like him, and also being with him in his last days. I'll end with being with him in the last days. But then there's this one incident that is very interesting. I was at home one day, we're watching TV with my wife, and here was the old man on TV doing his walk and feeling very confident. And he was a little bit more than himself, the self that I knew. So I asked my wife, what is the meaning of vanity? And she said, yeah, that's the same thing. He said, why? I said, I see vanity on the screen. About 5 minutes later, I had a call from the old man. Said, Richard, are you watching TV? I said, yes. Did you see me? I said, yes. So what did you see? How did you find me? And I saw vanity. And he said, what? Everybody's calling me and telling me I'm doing great, I look great and everything. Come over to the castle. So I drove there, and then he said, what do you mean by you saw vanity? I said, unfortunately, what I saw was vanity. The good thing was the week thereafter, I saw vanity unwinding in him. He became his old self all over again. And that is one big attribute that he had that made him what he was. Now, in his last days, in his very last days, he died betrayed. He felt betrayed. That book, that was, and the response that came from those he worked with really hit him very hard. We did our best to restrain him from responding, but it was a big blow to him. Then come the mother's death. And that also hit him very hard. And given the benefit of hindsight, his last days were not his best, apart from the medical condition that deteriorated.
Thank you very much. At least you've been very blunt with that.
Yeah.
Zane, I'm sorry I'm calling you Zane. I've been calling you that almost all your life. Last anecdote, fondest memory. I know you've got a lot, but let's wind up with something very nice and uplifting about him.
Well, he was not politically correct, you know that already. And I remember in I think the 90s when we first got the Defenders in the Air Force, and he was flying the Defender. Every new aircraft that arrived, whether it was a fixed wing or rotor, he just had to get his hands on it. And so with the Defender, he came over to pick me up, and said we should go flying together. And I remember my mother wasn't at home at the time, my other siblings were there, and a friend of my mom's was there. And he said, okay, let's go. And then my mom's friend said, but why won't you go with the others? And then he said, well, we're going to do simulated engine failure. Actually, we're going to fly asymmetric. So he was actually going to switch one engine off, and we're going to fly on one engine and try and keep the plane that way, and then restart the engine. And then he said to the woman, and she said, well, if we all go and something goes wrong, we'll all die. But if I just go with her, then only one child will die. And that was the kind of person he was, just practical and honest and brutally so sometimes. But it was true, And I remember how he'd get upset if we all flew on the same aircraft because, he says, decrease the chance of the whole family dying and split yourselves up and that kind of thing. So he was just an interesting man, and what you saw is what you get. And
I'd like to thank both of you very much for sharing your thoughts with us. I have a few thoughts, but this is not the time for me to talk about them. But Jerry John Rawlings was a very good man, and I think the Ghanaians will now realize what a good man he was. On that note, thank you very much, and the vigil continues.
Thank you.
This is our coverage of the final funeral rites of the late former President Jerry John Rawlings, just gone by at the vigil being held at the Air Force Officers Mess. And you just saw Dr. Zaneto Rawlings, Ajiman Rawlings, interacting with Fitz Balfour, and of course, a close confidant and friend of the former president, Group Captain retired Fojo. They're sharing their fondest memories of the late former President Jerry John Rawlings. This is live on the JoyNews channel, also on Joy 99.7 FM, Love 99.5 FM in Kumasi. We're also on DSTV channel 421, Go TV channel 144, and it's just started. Today is the beginning. Gone by earlier today was the Catholic Requiem Mass held at the Holy Spirit Cathedral. Later tomorrow also, we'll be giving you the filing past the official laying in state of the former President Jerry John Rawlings at the Accra International Conference Center all the way to Wednesday, 27th January 2021. Also, there will be some funeral rites also being held in Angloga, which we'll be bringing you live as well. This is the Joy News channel, and it's our coverage of the final funeral rites of Jerry John Rawlings. Currently ongoing is the vigil. I'll take you back to the Air Force Officers Mess, where my colleagues Maxwell Agbagba and Latif Idris will bring us more from that ground.
whipping from my head. Shake it loose and let it fall, laying soft against your skin, like the shadows on the wall. Come and lay down by my side till the early morning light. All I'm taking is your time. Help me make it through the night. I don't care what's right or wrong, and I won't try to understand. Let the devil take tomorrow. Lord, tonight I need a friend. Yesterday is dead and gone, and tomorrow is out of sight. It's so sad to be alone. Help me make it through the night. Lord, it's so sad to be alone. Yeah, help me make it through the night. Ooh, lead me through the night. Ooh, take me through the night. Ooh, through the night. Look into my eyes, and you'll see what you mean to me. Search your heart, search your soul, and when you find me there, you search no more. Don't tell me it's not worth trying for. You can't tell me it's not worth dying for. You know it's true. Everything I do it for you. Oh yeah. Look into your heart, and you will find there's nothing there to hide. Take me as I am. Take my love. I will sacrifice. Don't tell me it's not worth fighting for. I can't Everything I do it for you. I do it for you. Thank you so much. Rest in peace, JJ.
Thank you, Adina. A few more acknowledgements. Representing the Director General of Prisons is the Director of Prisons in charge of operations, Mr. Isaac Kofi Ejiri. We have the Veterans Administration of Ghana here, the Retired Commissioned Officers Association, the Retired Commissioned Air Force Officers Association. We have members of the Diplomatic Corps and the National Democratic Congress as well over here. The next is a performance by ACRAS, the Old Achimotans Association. They shall give us a tribute and some music. Thank you very much.
From Gabanga to Accra, from Riosu to Kettle, me her brothers and her mother is the school. She will guide us for each, so to learn that we may teach, so to subjugate ourselves that we may rule. Shame her game, shout her name, spread her fame afar. She's the head of all the house, she's the school of whom we boast, she's the glory of the coast, Achimota. When the bulls are laid aside and we scatter far and wide, we remember when the fishing only game. Are we there to take a share in the line of neighbor there, where the men of whom you're brothers of a trade play their game, shout our name, spread their fame afar. She's the head of all the hosts, she's the school of whom we boast, she's the glory of the coast, Achimota. Play their game, shout our name, spread their fame afar. She's the head of all the hosts, she's the school of whom we boast, she's the glory of the coast, I saw a new and I saw a new earth. For the fair self and the fair self were passed away, and there was no peace with men. heaven, as the voice of many waters, and I heard the voice from heaven, as the voice of many waters, and as the voice of a great thunder, and as the voice of a great thunder, and I heard the voice of harpers, harping with love, and the song as it were, a new song before the throne, a new song before the throne. And I heard a voice from heaven, as the voice of many waters, and I heard a voice from heaven, as the voice of many waters, and as the voice of a great thunder, 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 and I heard the voice of harpers, and I heard the voice of harpers, harping with a song, and the song as it were, before the throne, 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 before the throne.
Thank you, sir. God bless you. In the open, we have some painting going on. And this is done by a group called Pito. And we have Patrick William Dodu, Nicholas Wayo, and Kafi Amarago. They're actually doing a live painting. Also in our midst, we have Cuban-trained doctors who were sent to Cuba for training by the late Flight Lieutenant Jerry John Rawlings. Again, to every flight, there is a runway that you have to land on. And so I invite Flight Lieutenant Christina Barbara Jones-Mensah to give us the vote of thanks.
The President of the Mayor's Committee, Your Excellency, the former First Lady of the Republic of Ghana, Your Excellencies, the Chief Director at the Ministry of Defense, the Chief of the Defense Staff, representative of the Inspector General of Police, service chiefs, heads of our sister security services present, the former Chief of Defense Staff, the former service chiefs, very senior officers, both serving and retired, family of the late Flight Lieutenant Jerry John Rawlings, our distinguished invited guests, ladies and gentlemen, friends of the media, on behalf of the wife, children, and the family of the late President, His Excellency, Flight Lieutenant Jerry John Rawlings, retired, the Ghana Armed Forces High Command, and the Ghana Air Force, I wish to express our warmest gratitude to you all for coming. Your presence contributed in making this event a success. I wish you Godspeed and guidance to your various homes. Once again, we are grateful. Thank you.
For years,
Your Excellencies, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, we've come to the end of the vigil. But before we go, we have to give thanks to God again by singing a hymn, and Methodist hymn number 10. And it will be on the screen for you to sing along with us. And then there'll be a closing prayer by Captain G.N.
Paul Ejejan.
Thank you. So I'd like to thank all of you for coming. Godspeed, and during the next 2 or 3 days, let's mourn our hero and keep him in mind forever. Thank you and God bless. My name is Fritz Bafo. And with me was
Squadron Leader Nab.
God bless you all. Thank you.
You're just watching the vigil at the Air Force Armed Forces Officers Mess here at Bema Camp in Accra for the former President Jerry John Rawlings. A number of performances, including that of Adina Thembi. We've also heard the daughter of the former President, Zaneto Ajiman Rawlings, share some fondest memories together with the friends as well. There have been ministrations also from the Achimota School Choir, Old Achimota School Choir, and that's the vigil for today. And it continues tomorrow, like I said earlier. It goes all the way to Wednesday. Tomorrow we'll start the laying in state at 5 a.m. The family will be receiving the body of former President Jerry John Rawlings, and that will be a private ceremony. And all that will be bringing you starts from at 8 a.m. 8 a.m. right here on this channel and affiliates across the country, also via all our platforms. At 8 a.m. to 6 p.m. the laying in state will begin, and it will start with heads of security agencies. They will start first. They will file past the body starting 8 a.m., then followed by political party leaders, That's the order in which the laying in state and the filing pass will go. Then we'll have staff of the office of the former president who follow suit after the political leaders, political party leaders file pass. Then we'll have that of the president also. And then that's the staff of the office of the former president. Then we'll have the traditional and religious leaders follow suit. We'll then have the general public also following, and it will continue till Tuesday. That's the laying in state. It's 2 days of laying in state, Tuesday and then Monday and then Tuesday. Then on Wednesday will be the private burial after the laying in state, and then also the official state burial. We'll be going back to the premises of that vigil that was just held, the Air Force Officers Mess here at Bema Camp, where my colleagues Masrola Baba and Latif Idris will get us some reaction and interact with guests who have arrived. We've been told that they've been following strict COVID-19 protocols, and we all saw the moment, at least those of you listening via radio. There was a point where Adina Thimbi was singing, where the children actually broke down in tears at that point, and that's will be the very first that I'm sure they were hit by that song that was being sung by Adina Thimbi. And most of you have been reacting to it on social media. You can post your comment there and we'll be going into it. Your tributes also, you can post them and we'll go through them shortly for the former president, Jerry John Rawlings. But remember that that state funeral will be covered live right here on the Joy News channel, Joy 99.7 FM, Love 99.5 FM in Kumasi. On the Joy Prime channel, it's also live. And then on DSTV channel, you can find us, it's 421. Go TV channel is 144. I'll be going through a number of some tributes already that have poured in for him. We've seen that of Emmanuel Victor Smith, a former aide to the former president, Jerry John Rawlings. And also, we've seen how Zaneto Ajiman Rawlings summed it up nicely in terms of her relationship and fondest memories of her father and former president, Jerry John Rawlings, the kind of man he was. Some of you have been sharing it too. And pretty soon also, we're bringing you Ghana's Great, the former president, Jerry John Rawlings edition. We'll check if we have the feed. We'll go back to my colleague Masrola Baba and Latif Idris as they interact with some of the guests that have gathered at the officers' mess. Well, while we wait to connect to my colleagues Masrola Baba and of course Latif Idris from the Air Force Officers Mess, I said that some tributes have already started pouring in. We have some right here that we can go through. Emmanuel Victor Smith, a former aide of JJ Rawlings, has been writing. He says our late president was a political enigma and he was liked and disliked by many people for different reasons. He was understood by some and misunderstood by others. His temper flared up at times, but quick to cool down. He exhibited an interesting sense of humor, a very likable person if you had the opportunity to get close to him enough to appreciate his commitment to social justice and his desire to see others prosper and to live a life of decency. JJ was a very strong personality, very courageous and with conviction on the principles for which he launched the 31st December Revolution. He took great risks in bringing about the revolution and sustaining it for over 10 years. He had some close encounters with death at different times during his adult life until he retired from the high office of head of state. He had mood swings and was predictable at times. Some of us cannot simply accept that JJ just died. He was larger than life. He loved life, and I won't doubt that. At the point of death, he may have wished he could live longer, but the good Lord knows best. He gives and he takes away. May the good Lord absolve him of all his trespasses. His part in the political history of this nation cannot be erased. Ever. It doesn't matter how anyone looks at it. Fare thee well, Chief. Rest in peace, JJ. I'll take you to my colleague, Masrola Baba now.
Some interviews. They'll be speaking to Madam Samia Yaba Nkrumah shortly. But right now, I have with me here the former National Health Insurance Authority boss, Sylvester Mensah. He once contested to be the flag bearer of the NDC. He's also here at today's ceremony. Let's speak to him and find out from him who the man JJ Rawlings was. So you're welcome to Joy News.
Thank you.
Great. Can you first of all tell us how you knew JJ Rawlings?
Well, My first encounter on a direct and personal level was somewhere around 82. When he came to La for a cleanup exercise, and the entire township came out to engage in the exercise. Some just wanted to see him, others wanted to have a chat with him, and that was the first time I had a very close encounter with him. And it was not a long discussion. It was hi, let's work, let's get it done, kind of. And again, during the NDC-1, particularly the very first Congress of the party that elected him as the flag bearer in 1992, that was held in Cape Coast. As regional secretary of the party at the time, I was privileged to be among the few who had access into the hall. It wasn't a very big hall, into the hall where the elections were held. And that again gave me another close encounter with him. But subsequently, as regional secretary of the party and as member of parliament, we had a few exchanges either in his home during his birthdays. I have always read a kind of a birthday goodwill message on behalf of the youth in the Greater Accra region. And so I had that opportunity in engaging with him, and he's a very pleasant personality, but extremely difficult to kind of understand often. I guess he's been described variously as an enigmatic personality. Indeed, you can hate him, but you cannot resist him. You can love him, but you may not always agree with him. He is one of a type, and Ghana has lost a great man.
I mean, his buzzwords, transparency, probity, and accountability. How do we keep that flame, burning? That's what a lot of people have been asking. And you, as a member also of the NDC, how do we keep those values burning?
But those are the very values upon which the National Democratic Congress was erected. He is the founder of the party, and issues of probity, accountability, transparency, social justice are the very foundations of our party. I guess that more than ever, the party has a responsibility to ensure that we drive down these values into members of our party, right from the very top to the very base of our party. And that is something that we'll be looking at into the future as a party, not as individuals.
Thank you very much for talking to us. Okay, so you just heard from the former National Health Insurance Authority boss, Sylvester Mentam, also contested to be NDC flag bearer some years ago. We'll be hearing from Samia Yaba Nkrumah, who is the daughter of Ghana's President Dr. Kwame Nkrumah, former President Dr. Kwame Nkrumah. And indeed, many have said that J.J. Rawlings only comes second to Samia Yaba Nkrumah's father, Kwame Nkrumah. Let's hear what she has to say.
That's difficult in 3 words. I can describe our father in 3 words, but it's difficult to do that with anyone else.
But now we will be going through the process, maybe from today till Wednesday. The family are still mourning. You are a mother, you are a sister. What would be your words of encouragement to the family?
Yeah, and that is why I'm here. I'm here in solidarity with the family. President Rawlings was our head of state, and I understand what they might be going through. It is not easy to lose a very strong pillar, and head of a family. So I can imagine what they are going through. We've been through similar experience. So as a woman, I feel for Nana Konadu. I know what she must be going through, and I think collectively we must stand together and unite behind our country, behind our collective vision for a strong, united and prosperous Ghana.
Thank you very much.
Now let's get closer and let's try and have a personal interaction with Samia Yaban Nkrumah, daughter of Dr. Kwame Nkrumah. You're welcome to JoyNews.
Thank you.
Tell us, how did you know J.J. Rawlings?
Okay, well, we came back. We were invited by the late Colonel Achampong in late 75 to come back from Egypt and come back home basically and reconnect with our family, our culture and everything. And we were here till the early 80s. So we knew former President Rawlings between 79 and 81, before the second coup, let's put it this way. But I'm really here to show my solidarity and respect to the family for his memory. We might not agree with everything he did, but I think there's a time when we all have to come together. We have to forgive, and somehow we have to channel the pain into something constructive for our country and our people. So that's really why I'm here, out of respect for history, for posterity, and in the hope that we can all stand united when the need arises too, as Ghanaians and as Africans.
Many people have said that the only person who comes closer, when we're talking about contributions to Ghana's political history, the only person who comes closer to Dr. Kwame Nkrumah, your father, is J.J. Rawlings. I want to find out from you, what similarities do you think the two leaders shared, your father and J.J. Rawlings?
I think, okay. They came at different times, different periods. And I think our father had a particular role to play in our history as a catalyst for our political emancipation and to pave the way for us to achieve economic emancipation. Now, which is something we are still grappling with now. Now, former President Rawlings, maybe what I can say is that, like Osachifo Kwame Nkrumah, he was charismatic, and he appealed to all men and women in Ghana, and I think that's perhaps something you could say they had in common. That they could feel people and reach out to them, and people also could feel them and relate to them. Yes. So.
Finally, before you go, what lessons do you think can contemporary politicians pick from the life of J.J. Rawlings?
That I think we need to be courageous. And yes, we need to be courageous. We need to speak our mind too. We don't always have to speak like politicians, you know, but we can speak our mind without being afraid of people judging us, without being afraid of not sounding too sophisticated or too knowledgeable. I think politicians need to become more humble, modest, and really to speak for the people in a manner in which the people can understand and relate to.
Thank you very much for talking to us. Okay. So you just heard from Samia Yaba Nkrumah, former member of parliament for the Jomoro constituency. She was in parliament, first entered parliament in 2008, daughter of Dr. Kwame Nkrumah. The ceremony itself has ended here. Quite a number of people are hanging around. We saw Fritz Bafo somewhere here. We're trying to get him and speak to him because he also has a lot to say about the man J.J. Rawlings. But these two artists here wowed the people who came here to this vigil. And this was a live painting that was done right when the vigil actually started here. And this is live painting. They started this when the vigil commenced. We'll try and see if we can speak to some of them here. Hi, what's your name?
Nicholas.
Nicholas, okay, you're the one doing the painting. You started when the vigil commenced.
Yeah.
You knew J.J. Rawlings from afar, or you had a personal relationship with him?
Well, I look at him as he was a great leader. Okay. He was one of the best of our time, you know, and he deserved to be celebrated. You know, I believe if you live for yourself, you live in vain. But if you live for others, you live again. Even though he may be gone, but he still lives. You know, so, well, I just wish he rest in peace. But his legacy still remains with us.
Yeah. Like many of us, we knew him from afar. What are your fondest memories of J.J. Rawlings? What are your fondest memories of him?
Well, the memories that I remember, there was a time Jerry John Rawlings came to Nima. You know, he did some cleanup exercise. He went to Goddess by himself. You know, like he was with us like a normal person. And I will never forget that. You know, because one thing I know also is that if you are a leader, you are not there to be served. You are there to serve your people. And I witnessed Rawlings serving the nation. You know, may his soul rest in perfect peace.
Right. Okay. Let me speak to your friends. I want to find out from them what does it take to do this? Right. What gifts, what talent does it take to do what you guys are doing here?
Yeah, it's a gift. It's totally a gift. Even though I believe every child was born an artist, you know, but it depends on practicals, you know, but it's so sad that here in Ghana, we don't encourage the art so well, you know, but then life is art and art is life. You know, that's one thing I believe in.
Okay.
Yeah.
And you started this from scratch?
Yeah, definitely. I started when I was 8 years old.
Okay.
You know, I was drawing with charcoal on walls and other things, you know, until date. We fell in painting and we love to paint. It's our passion.
Okay. Finally, before I leave you, what does it mean for you, your work as an artist, to be doing this today when we had a lot of dignitaries present here, many of them admiring your work here?
Well, it means a lot. You know, it means a lot. I can't really explain how I feel, you know, because we always want to do this to be able to interact, to be able to make some noise for people to know the value and the beauty of art.
Okay.
Yeah.
Your name again?
Nicholas Tete Wayo.
Okay. Nicholas Tete Wayo, thanks so much for speaking to us. So you just heard from Nicholas Tete Wayo. He put together this together with his team here. They started this when the vigil commenced here at the Air Force Officers Mess. Let me just show you. So now we have empty seats here. The ceremony has ended, and as you can see, it was done under the strict adherence to the COVID-19 protocol, so social distancing and all of that. Empty seats now. The place is virtually empty. Everybody has left to their homes. We understand that it would continue tomorrow at 5 a.m. We understand the body the remains of the former president will be handed over to the family. And then later in the day, it will be open to a section of the public to pay their last respect to the former leader. But it's been glowing tributes here at the Air Force Officers Mess here. A lot of people paying glowing tributes to J.J. Rawlings. You'd ask yourself, why?
My colleague Maxwell Agbagba reporting from the Air Force Officers Mess here in Accra, where that vigil has just ended. That vigil in memory of the former president, Jerry John Rawlings, has just ended. His former colleagues have been celebrating him in a grand style today, and it continues all the way to Wednesday. So Agbagba was walking us through the laying-in state ceremony that starts tomorrow at the Accra International Conference Center, and heads of security agencies will be getting the first opportunity to file past his body after the family receives him at the private ceremony at 5 a.m. Then it starts at 8 a.m. to 6 p.m. So heads of security agencies will take their turn first. Then we'll have political party leaders. They will follow suit. Then we have staff of the office of the former president will also take their turn. Then we'll have traditional and religious leaders will also take their turn. Then the general public will also start. The following day, it continues that way, where we'll have the president, amongst other state dignitaries, also taking their turn to file past the body to pay their final respect to the former president, Jerry John Rawlings. We will be live here on the Joy News channel, also on myjoyonline.com, on Joy 99.7 FM, Love 99.5 FM in Kumasi, together with a dozen affiliates across the country. On Joy Prime, we are also live. Our sister stations are Dome, and other stations will also be bringing us that live coverage as well. On our social media platforms, we've got you covered. So wherever you are in the world, this is the channel to be on. At 9 p.m. for Joy FM listeners, we'll bring you A Walk with Jesus. Our coverage here continues on Joy News channel. I am Emefa Apau, and my colleagues will continue tomorrow. You want to stay with us so that you don't miss anything. Thanks for your company.